Welcome to the Steve Stine Guitar Podcast, where we bring you the latest insights, tips, and techniques to help you master the art of guitar playing. I'm your host, Steve Stine, and I'm committed to sharing my passion for the guitar while inspiring you and guiding you through your musical journey. Now remember that you can enjoy this podcast from anywhere and anytime, whether you're cruising down the highway, preparing dinner in the kitchen, or even working out at the gym. By incorporating the podcast into your daily routine, you'll be able to stay inspired and motivated in your guitar journey, no matter where life takes you. Now, let's dive into today's podcast. Hey, Steve Stine here, and thank you for joining me for this episode of the Steve Stine Guitar Podcast. What we're going to be doing today is showing you an interview that I did from the guys at Ciari Guitars. Now, I was in Nashville just recently and taught a 2-day guitar clinic out there, and I stopped at the Ciari Guitar Factory to talk about Ciari Guitars. Now, if you don't know Ciari Guitars, I would highly recommend you check them out. Ciari, Ciari Guitars. Basically, what they are a high-quality guitar that is foldable. Now, this company's been around for quite a while, although they've made some major changes to their guitars in the last couple of years to make them far more stable. And the thing is what's really important to understand about Ciari Guitars is that they're not foldable cheap guitars. They're high quality guitars that happen to fold. Now, why would you want it to fold? Well, obviously, if you're someone who travels a lot, but space is an issue. Most certainly maybe in a small vehicle that you're driving, or you've got a show and you've got to take an airplane, maybe you're flying out for a session or something like that. I know a lot of session players that have been using Ciari guitars, and as well as people like, Steve Stevens, if you know who he is. Elvis Costello has been using one on stage lately, that sort of thing. There's all kinds of players that have been using them. But basically what makes it so great is, when I travel, if I wind up in a hotel for a few days, instead of bringing a full-size guitar and then having to check it or hope I can get it, on the plane and not under the plane, I hate stress the way it is. And so with the Ciari guitar, the great thing is that I can just, put it under my seat or put it in the overhead and call it a day and I'm done. So this interview is me talking to the guys at Ciari about the history of the guitar, the company, and, up and coming things that they've got. And I think you're really going to enjoy this. And again, if you get a chance, please check them out, CiariGuitars.com. All right, so I just want to let you know that I'm here at the Ciari factory, and we're going to be talking about the Ciari guitar, the different styles of guitar, the history of it, all the stuff that they've got here, options and things like that Ciari offers, and we're going to learn some stuff here. So give me the history of the Ciari guitar and kind of walk me through the early stages of Ciari and where we're at now, if that's cool.
Sure. Basically, the history goes back with Jonathan Spangler, our CEO, saw kind of a lapse in the market for being able to travel with guitars via airline, via just small compartments, and was trying to give people options as far as like what they travel with, because a lot of guitar players, as we know, you go to the airport, there's not a lot of room, and you're lucky if the airline is accommodating to a musician, which a lot of musicians fly. It's much cheaper than renting buses and everything else now.
Right.
So what he's done is built a professional guitar that travels. It folds essentially in half.
Right.
And he kind of worked his way up just through some prototyping, which we have our prototypes here. This would be our first general prototype. It's just 3D printed hinge, essentially. I mean, that's kind of where it all started, was the longest part, the most fragile part of most guitars is the neck. So how can we get around that? So he built this initial prototype.
And where did the inspiration come from for this sort of thing?
It's a good question.
Because you had mentioned, what does he do for a living, or what?
Yeah, Jonathan's a patent attorney and also has a background in medical tech. So
right.
He helped, make different equipment, I believe, for like spine to hips and stuff.
Because you say that, and then I look at that and I go, oh.
Yeah, and he has a very particular process with unfolding and folding guitars. It's almost set up like how medical professionals would do it in a very routine type of fashion. So
right.
It's really kind of a neat background as far as like being introduced into the music field, the music manufacturing and stuff.
Right.
But it went from this guy here into a metal version, which this is also just 3D printed. It looks like metal, but this is essentially the kind of working prototype. It's pretty close to what we're using right now. And it went from here to a physical wood model with frets, just to kind of see how that would work. This also has indentations to help grab your strings and keep them in line, which is, again, part of the Now product as well.
Right.
And then it went from that into an actual working prototype of, can this actually happen, proof of concept idea. So this essentially has a fashion or a different kind of mechanism on how to make this work, but essentially does the same concept, just in more visual scale.
Right.
So from there, we basically have now developed a working guitar, which is this right here is our P90 Duo, was using Fishman Fluids pickups. So he's integrated that entire thing into this, which the way we do it is we unfold, we put a little sticker there so you'll know when it's closed how to reopen it. And you're gonna grab, you're gonna fold back, and it locks in a magnet there, and this will fit underneath your carry-on seat or above you in just about any airline.
Right. So for me, the big thing, and I know if you've watched any of my videos before, we've talked about this, but what I find amazing about it is, in my personal experiences, because I do fly a lot, and I do like to bring a guitar. Before this, that meant either bringing the guitar in a gig bag and then panicking trying to get to the gate quicker than anybody else, hoping that I get on the plane and they would allow me to keep the bag and the guitar on the plane instead of under the plane, which people will always say things like, well, legally you're supposed to, they need to allow you to do that. If you've ever flown before, that is not true at all. I've had to put my guitar under the plane many times, and when you're putting it in a soft shell case under the plane, it's kind of terrifying.
Right.
So I stopped doing that, and I moved to a TSA style hard shell case that I would check, which is great. And sometimes I still do that when needed. The problem, of course, is that is not cheap, and then I've got more luggage that I need to carry. So if I'm doing something that either A, is quick, and I want to do it cheap, or I want to have a guitar with me, like right now I'm out in Nashville, I'm out here for a week. I need something to play while I'm in the hotel.
Right.
And I don't want to pay for bringing a guitar along and checking it and doing all that kind of stuff.
You forgot one thing though. Also, when you check bags, sometimes it doesn't show up.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
Yeah, you're right.
You're lucky if your guitar makes it there a lot of times, or like you said, makes it there one piece.
Right.
And if you're carrying, if anybody has ever bought an handle case or anything that's not, plastic form or whatever, like a plastic case, it is so heavy.
That's right.
You'd be lucky if you have casters on it. If you're,
that's right. So now you're rolling through LAX with this heavy ass case and your luggage and everything else, which again is fine, but it's also expensive.
Yeah.
So this was great because I really got interested this January at NAMM because I was out there for a week and I didn't have a guitar. And I was like, oh, dang it, this is just the perfect thing. So if you don't travel, you never travel, this might not be what you need. But if you're someone who travels a lot, like coming out here, this literally went in my overhead and my briefcase, and plane landed, I grabbed my stuff and I was gone.
Yeah.
So, and what I love is what you said before, that if you think about it, because people will go, well, it's a folding guitar, it's a gimmick thing. And what you said was perfect, that it really is a professional guitar that happens to fold.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it sounds amazing and it plays great, and I'm not just saying that. If you ever see me anywhere, you need to ask to play it, because I have it with me just about everywhere I go now.
We want to feel as natural as possible to being like your guitar.
Right.
We don't want to, not to discredit any other brands. They all do their own thing, and that's fine. Sticking body parts on something can be a little nerve-wracking. Can be another part you have to keep up with. Keeping it all consolidated, one piece, one fluid motion, you're good to go, and it feels natural. It feels like a normal guitar.
Right.
Normal.
Right. Well, and let's talk about that. So, from the professional aspect, let's talk about the different models that you've got and what's available for people.
Okay.
Because I know the P90, I believe the P90 is new, right?
Yeah, we have a P90 Duo, which is basically ridge and neck, being our P90s. We use most Seymour Duncans, but we do active as well. These are Fishman Fluents, and we do offer a plug-in for USB to recharge, so you're not carrying 9 volts around, try to make that as easy for the player as possible. And that comes with your USB cord, so don't worry about having to buy another one.
Right.
So yeah, we have the P90 Solo in addition, which is just the bridge pickup. Again, it's volume and tone. One cool thing about these Fishman Fluents, I'll just throw it out there, is they have these things called voices in them, and it's more complicated than my pay grade. This stuff I don't remember, but it basically has multiple voices through it's not just a coil tap, it's like a full-on system that they have set up. It's really neat for tone shaping and just kind of creating your own sound. Yeah, so we have the Duo, we have the Solo, and then we have our standard line, which is 2 humbuckers, and we can do coil taps for those, or coil splitting. We can do a lot of different types of wiring as well. So, if you have a specific need, you just talk to us and work it out, figure out what we can do to accommodate.
The other thing too is that I just talked to you about the possibility of taking mine and putting custom pickups in there, because I generally use EMGs.
Yeah.
So you do custom work too, so I can send you the guitar, you'll put the EMGs in, do all the work.
Yeah, we have some limitations, but for the most part, we found that most pickups will work in our situation. There's just it's a depth issue, so if it's too tall, we'll definitely know before we put it in. We'll be able to measure it and find out. But
so calling you is probably a good idea.
Yeah. If you're wanting something custom, it's a good idea just to give us a call or an email and kind of talk us through what you're wanting, and then we'll figure out how to accommodate you. So
You do custom paint jobs and stuff like that too?
We do offer that. It's another service on top of everything. So if there's something you're wanting, again, just let us know. We've got some bodies that can use new paint, or we have ones that we do flat printing on. We had a company that asked for promotional stuff for Christmas thing they're doing for their employees. So we had 10 guitars. It was a racing fuel company, had their logo all the way across the front. It was awesome. We were working back and forth with them to make sure it's perfect for them.
Right.
We sent them. So yeah, it was great.
Cool. So they come stock with 10 gauge strings, is that right?
Correct, yeah. But we've done heavier, we've done lighter gauge,
Well, okay. So let's talk about that for a second too, because I got it played great, but I'm more of a 9 gauge player, so I put the 9 gauge strings on there. And I will say that when the 10 gauge strings were on there and I would fold it and I would bring it back, it was almost perfect in terms of its tuning. When I put the 9s on there, now when I fold it and I bring it back, it requires a little bit of tuning.
Right.
And what I found interesting is when I talked about this on some other videos, people are like, "Oh my God, why doesn't it stay in tune?" And I was trying to remind them, like, when I wake up every morning and I go to my studio and I'm going to make video, the first thing I do to my guitar that's been sitting there doing nothing all night is make sure it's in tune. So my point is that even if you were to fold it and then you bring it back and you put it in place and it's a little out of tune, you have a tuner and you just tune it a little bit and then it's back again. So I just want to explain that, because on the 10 gauge I didn't see that at all. On the 9 gauge that I'm using now, it is worth having to tune the guitar, which I do every day anyway. It's worth tuning it because it feels more comfortable to me to play the 9 gauge strings than it does.
And I'll say that it's the upper echelon of a 90% of it will be in tune every time you take it out, if it was in tune when you folded it.
Right.
It's like you said, if you're going to show up at a gig, you want to double check everything.
Right.
You don't just want to plug in and just straight go.
Right.
We're not like air clapping walking in and being like, it's all set up for you, sir.
Right. Well, and then there's you're going on a plane, you're coming off a plane, maybe it was X amount of humidity or temperature when you left. And so my point is if it's possible, try not to get too hung up on the tuning thing, because all you have to do is tune the guitar and then you're ready to go. So then the next thing is moving from that. Could we talk a little bit, because I saw the plecking machine. Mm-hmm. So you guys plec every single one of these?
Yeah. Everything is done through the plec, and the plec measures our accuracy by 10,000ths of an inch. So we can work our way actually over to the plec machine.
Sure.
body up there right now that just went through a final scan and needs a minor adjustment.
Okay.
So, but yeah, let's
Should we go over there?
Yeah.
All right, perfect.
So, do you know Joe Glazer?
Yeah.
Local luthier?
Yeah.
So yeah, he sort of brought Plek to the country. He sort of is helping like get Plek machines set up in shops here. And he met our CEO, Jonathan, at NAMM. And basically he was like, Jonathan showed Joe the guitar and was like, well, if you can't Plek it, like you can't really do anything, so it's not gonna work. So they took it back to the shop and folded it, scanned it, folded it, scanned it, and it came back to the right shape every single time.
Okay.
So Joe was like, well, it looks like you're onto something here. So Joe Glazer has been a part of the company for a while now, and he helped get us set up with this Plek machine. So basically what this does is it does a scan here, and the green line is where the ideal spot where you want the tops of the frets to be.
Okay.
And so you can see there's a little bit of a ski jump here. It's a little bit high.
Right.
So once you take the strings off, then it'll just go through and it'll cut all the frets down. And the blade is actually concave so that it puts the crown on the frets automatically. And so really all we have to do once it comes out of here is just polish them and we're done. So yeah, this is a great little machine. It also it planes the board, and it'll cut the nut slots for the strings. And yeah, it's just super accurate, and every single neck we produce here goes through the Plek machine. So that's pretty cool.
So how long does it take to Plek it then?
About 20 minutes to cut the frets, and a nut cut is about 5 minutes. Planing a neck is like 10 to 15 minutes, so
Wow.
it doesn't take too long.
That's awesome.
And like it's cool that we can just let it go and then do other things while it's working. So it's pretty cool.
Right.
So it's a third employee.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know, like I mentioned, I know Sweetwater has a Plekking machine, and that's become really, really popular to get them really dialed in.
Yeah.
So when you play it, everything feels comfortable and feels more symmetrical and smooth across the fretboard. So. Hey, if you could, do me a huge favor. Like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And also do me a huge favor. Head over to GuitarZoom.com and check out our courses and our all-access membership.
Yeah, it's really valuable to what we do here. We really couldn't have the hinge in the middle of the neck without the Plek machine. It's just like, you can't just estimate, like it has to be exact,
Right. That reminds me, if we can come back over here, what I think is really interesting. So the first time you play one, I mean, when you look at it, it's like, because this is a lot like mine. So if you look at it, it looks complex, but from the consumer side, it really isn't, because all you have to do is grab this and
Watch your little hands.
Yep,
there.
yep.
I don't want.
and then pull that, right? And then this folds over.
Yep.
That's what it does. And then you put it back.
Think of it as like a spring-loaded tailpiece.
Right.
I mean, that's essentially what you're doing. The only thing is it's doing the other thing of locking the neck in
Right.
as well. So you're just releasing all the tension off the strings, and it's giving you your slack. And we basically built a system that carries all the slack to keep everything in the same place.
Right. So if you, I don't know if you can see this on there, but you can see there's this little piece right here, right above the nut. So the strings go through there so they don't slip out when you let the tension off of there. So what's really cool though is once you get it back, well, the other thing is that I had read somewhere something about like there's 138 pounds of pressure or something like that.
Yeah, that's general string tension.
Okay, so when you go to this thing, it reduces it to like 8 pounds or something.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
So it literally takes nothing to move that. But here's what I was going to talk about was this thing, because when I was first going to play this, I was worried that this was going to be uncomfortable to play. If you can see that, where all of this takes place, but it's not. Like it's really easy to play over the top of that, which is so surprising because you'd think that would be.
Yeah, and I do most of the neck production since I've been working here, and that's like the biggest thing for me is making sure that transition is as smooth as possible.
Right.
When we get ones that aren't, like they get rejected. I mean, it just happens sometimes. Like
Sure.
sanded a little too much, and it's just not good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one guy told us, and I thought this was the best way of saying it, because like you will feel it because it gets colder.
Yeah.
If you're playing a long gig and your hand gets sore, just put it right there, rest it. It's like a little ice pack. It's nice. Like it stays cool. So
I never thought of that before.
Yeah. That was the best one I've heard so far.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So what artists do you guys have playing these right now?
Oh man, I hope I'm gonna mess some of the names up, so I'm gonna tell you more bands than anything. We have Elvis Costello. That was a shock to all of us because we were just working and Skylar was going through our orders list and be like, Elvis Costello just ordered one. Like none of us got a heads up. Like, we get heads up.
That's a joke, right?
Yeah. We thought it was funny. And we're like, oh, okay, cool. So we just sent him. We figured, probably just orders 1,000 guitars. Like, who knows? I don't understand. Like, some of the higher echelon guitar players and their mentality on buying things. And he, within like 2 weeks after we sent it to him, we saw him in Denmark playing a live show, unfolded and folded the guitar in front of the entire audience.
Oh my God.
And we're just like, wow, this is the best advertisement you can get.
Yeah.
But we've got Richard Fortas has one, Johnny Mars has one. And a lot of these guys don't just have one; they're playing it.
Right.
Like I'm not saying like you just bought it to sit. Like we have pictures of them playing it in front of people.
Right.
I know. I believe Sharky that plays with John Mayer. I think he has one now too. Cool in the Gang, I believe, have one.
They have like 3.
Yeah, I think they have 3.
Right?
Fred Armisen has 2.
Okay.
Which was really cool. He was doing like a live stand-up thing. Like he does a musician-focused comedy set, and he had bought one of ours to go via car to different vinyl shops to play these like stand-up shows or whatever he was doing, and then he bought another one like 6 months later. We're like, perfect. Like that's awesome. That's a testament to us that we're doing something cool here. So,
yeah, right.
But yeah, Alicia Keys. I mean, the list goes on. We're like trying to put all these pictures up, and we're having to build labels for all the pictures because we're forgetting all the names.
Right.
So it's a really cool process, and a lot of these guys are showing up on their own. The artist list just keeps growing, and I got some Judas Priest came by the shop, and that was like so much fun, like getting to listen to them play and jam.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of it breaks your brain a little bit after a while. You're just like, okay, who's the other guy from this band? And then they show up, and you're like, hey, I forgot. Sorry, man.
No, I think that's amazing because I mean it just shows it's a testament to the quality of the instrument. And for me, again, I'm not getting paid to say this. I just think it's amazing. Like when I was at NAMM this year, people always ask me, "What was your favorite thing that you saw?" And this was it, which is why I'm here right now. This was the thing. I was like, man, that would have saved me because then a couple of days after NAMM, I had to play with some guys. I hadn't played for 3 days other than a little bit at NAMM because I didn't have anything to practice on. So that's when I got a hold of the gentleman behind the camera.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got to figure something out.
And that's the other thing is like, when you travel with like a gig bag, especially if you're traveling with one that's just a solo, there's not really a whole lot of real estate in that bag for other things. So like, not only do we have the gig bag that comes with the guitar, we also offer a backpack as well, which can carry your clothes, can carry pedals. I mean, we really set up that as a travel bag. It sits on your roller bag. We've got the slots for it. We've got all the extra padding to keep you like, cool and not like get all sweaty carrying it through the airport. Because we all know, especially in Nashville, gate C26, for whatever reason, is always your flight when you have gear. No idea why they do that. You feel like the Nashville airport would accommodate the musicians a little better, be like, hey, maybe we should put those more frequent guys carrying all the big equipment.
You gotta keep the hippies over the other side.
Yeah. No hate to BNA, but come on. Yeah.
That's great. Well, thanks. I appreciate the information. This has been awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming by and really we're just glad you liked it. That's awesome.
Very cool. Thank you. Tell me a little bit about these pickups that are in this one.
So these are brand new Seymour Duncan P90 silencer pickups.
Okay.
So it's all the great tone of P90 that you know and love without the hum.
Oh, yeah.
Dead quiet. I mean, we're in here with like neon lights, fluorescent lights.
Yeah, right.
No hum whatsoever.
And those come stock.
Dead quiet.
Well, that's great.
So yeah, it's an option. It's a $100
That's awesome.
very quiet.
Yeah.
And so these are like it's a $100 upgrade. So
Right.
a P90 Duo is $16.99. It's a $17.99
I see.
if you want to get these.
What normally comes in the $16.99 one?
Seymour Duncan, just these custom wound P90s that sound fantastic.
Gotcha.
Just old school. I mean, the hum is also a part of the charm.
Yeah, right.
So
Yeah.
it's like a Strat.
Right.
You know, but if you want dead quiet, this is a great way to go.
That's awesome. All right, thank you so much for joining me for this podcast. And again, check out Ciari Guitars, Ciari Guitars.com, and see what you think of them. And thank you so much for listening. Please make sure that you subscribe wherever it is that you're listening, and I sure do appreciate it. If you like our podcast and want to hear more, remember to press the subscribe button on the app that you listen to. By doing this, you help us a lot, and you'll be the first to know when we have new episodes ready for you to listen to. Is this podcast fun and useful? Then please give it a thumbs up and write about how much you like it. Is this podcast not what you thought it would be? Please let us know. This helps us to make our podcast better and helps more people who love guitar find it as well. So don't forget to subscribe, like, and tell us what you think.